for everything to get set up. So we're live, giving this a few moments for like if anyone wants to tune in. We are live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. We're live on Twitch, I think, Twitter, and Facebook. Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure. Cool. So, hi, Shamir.
Hi, Maria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. So we're kind of experimenting with this Gut Talks live. So I've done one a month ago, and I'm thinking of having season 3 live, but I'm still testing this out. So thank you for being kind and accepting to do this live, seeing how it goes. It's like 3:30 p.m. or something like that in India at the moment, right?
4:30.
4:30.
1 hour.
Okay. So we then switch. Okay, it's because here we switch to CST time zone in
Milan,
Europe. Yeah. Cool. So let's get this started. So basically, we have one person live. Actually, I can see on Twitch, I think. Okay. I'll be monitoring the chat on LinkedIn, and based on how this goes, we can even have a Q&A session after. I didn't highly promote this in terms of going live. We're still testing this out, but the podcast itself, the audio, will be out in a few weeks, the audio version. So we will be cutting all this part basically of the welcome and so on. And yeah, if you're live, please feel free to just type in the chat, because we can see some of the chat here on the stream, or I'll be having my eyes on LinkedIn as well, because it's not integrated in that sense. Cool. So Shamir Joseph, thank you for being on Gut Talks. So maybe you want to get this started?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Shamir Joseph, and you're listening to Gut Talks, GGUT.
Cool. Thank you for that. And then we're going to be having the music. Thank you for doing that so well as well. Cool. So, Shamir, we met at the co-creation school with like Adam Lawrence, who was here on episodes 24 and 25, and Akira, whose episode will be out very soon, actually, in a few weeks. Renatus, not yet, but getting there. Hello, Renatus.
Soon, next one.
And yeah, and it's an amazing community. Everyone who's into co-creation should check it out. Lots of learnings, great people. I'm really happy to be part of this. That's how we met. We always try to learn new things, advance new things, and we're going to be talking about, guess what, design thinking today. So you're an engineer. You moved from mechanical engineering to design thinking. You're a trainer, facilitator. I'll let you expand on this. So let's just understand a little bit who's Shamir, and why did you go into engineering first?
That's a very nice question.
Well, I know, yeah, in India, many people go into engineering first. That we know, but beyond this, yeah.
Well, for me, basically, I was the kind of kid that always asked my parents why. And when they said something, I would be, why not? So I was always irritating my parents, but they were kind enough to, always entertain those questions and entertain my curiosity. So the curiosity in terms of not only asking why, but also opening up things and trying to get them back. And I must admit that most of the things I tried to get back did not go back into the original position that they were in. So a lot of the things that I opened up, didn't really work. But I enjoyed exploring, understanding how things work. And that's what really led me to engineering. So understanding the why behind it, understanding what can be done with it, and then trying to create something from it. So that's how I landed up in engineering and mechanical per se, and specifically. And the best part about my engineering was what we did in a college team. So we had this Formula One race team where we built a Formula One style race car with a bunch of college students and raced them with other colleges. And that really got me interested in, prototyping, testing, building things with your hand physically, testing. So it made the what we studied in class even more richer, and we got to actually build something, and that got me into building products and trying out designs. And that's where I discovered design thinking and the human-centered way of thinking around products and services. And then facilitation came in, as because I realized training is something that I love, being able to explain things in an easier way, in an easy to way do, and leveraging really experiential learning. So having fun while you're learning things was something that I really enjoyed personally. So trying to create that in workshops, in courses that are there. So that's basically how we are. How this is how it led to today. So yeah. Oh, Maria, I can't hear you. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, I can go for it.
Cool. Okay. No.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's part of things when we're live. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So can you expand a little bit on the Formula One kind of experience? What did you do actually? Like, what was
Yeah.
the brief, and what is it that you and your team did?
Mm-hmm.
What was that aha
So
moment as well for you?
yeah, so there are a lot of aha moments in that, but basically what it is a lot of engineering students, mechanical engineering students, come together to create this Formula One style race car. So what we did was we took a bike engine, so a KTM Duke engine, put it in a metal frame of what a Formula One styled open car would look like. Got wheels, got brake pedals of another car. We used different parts of different cars, put it together to create this, and then create different gear ratios, trying them out so that it's fast, and actually build it, weld it out, and find the electronics for it, combine it together, and make it into this car that's actually running on the roads. And then you get to race with other teams from other colleges, not only in India but outside. So this is it's called Formula Student. It's quite an international movement to really have those hands-on training and hands-on experience for mechanical engineers specifically. So there's this really a lot of aha moments. Like we think things are great on design because we make them in software, right? We go and then we go test it out and it breaks, and we're like, okay. Or we go and build it in software, like it'll fit well. We send it off to manufacturer, it comes back, and we try to fit it in, and we're like, okay, maybe we got the dimensions wrong. So we did waste a lot of money doing that, but we learned a lot on how to test cheaply, on how to test. So instead of we would first take a printout, put it on a cardboard piece of paper, and see if it actually fit there before going ahead and making cutting it out of aluminium, which is very expensive, and going through the manufacturing process. So it got us to test things quickly and cheaply because we didn't have that much money as a college team, how much we could raise to do that. So a lot of aha moments along the way, just building and testing and building this Formula One styled race car that's there. Yeah.
Cool. And my other thing, so you discovered there that you enjoyed prototyping, testing your assumptions and so on. And
Mm-hmm.
you discovered human-centered design during
Mm-hmm.
that period also.
Yes. So I did get a bit into the design thinking and human-centered design, but at that point, I couldn't find anything in my course that was teaching me that. So that led me to explore outside of my syllabus. And that's when I was thinking, why isn't this there in engineering, right? At that point, it wasn't there, like as a course syllabus that was being taught. Luckily now it is. We get to do that. But at that point, it was not there. So that led me to explore more outside. And, as I said, I'm an explorer, right? So if I'm curious about something, I go ahead and find it. And that's when I explored about design thinking. And that became really useful when we started after college, when we were building products for clients that really had very specific needs, right? Or what they wanted. So exploring those needs and understanding how through engineering we can make them possible. So that really helped in that sense. Yeah.
Cool. I don't think we're not really giving an overview of what's design thinking and so on, because we had this on a few podcasts actually. As I said, 24-25 with Adam Lawrence. We had a few others. I'll be putting all the links. But do you want, from your perspective, your initial thought, like to give kind of how would you define it? Which is a little bit not easy to do, and I guess it depends on who you talk to. But how would you define this for engineers? How would you tell them what it is, and how can this help them?
So specifically, design thinking for, I would say, a 6-year-old, how to explain it to them would be, it's a way to solve problems creatively and come up with innovative solutions. That's basically what it is. And to an engineer specifically, I guess how I would frame it is what is different about it, right? So that would be the approach that I would take. What is different from what design thinking versus engineering thinking? And all I'll say is it helps you to test things quickly. It helps you to broaden the scope of what engineering thinking focus you, because engineering thinking is great for certain aspects, but there's design thinking which helps you to really get a broader, holistic view of how products are made. Because no more are we in the age where engineers do only engineering work. That's not the case. There are a lot of engineers who are working in the industry to have to consider, customer aspects of it. And there are some engineers who are working in startups as well, where you're not just doing engineering work, you're doing many other aspects. And there's design thinking can really help you get a better understanding of who the people are you're talking to and what their needs could be and how you can fulfill that. So that's how I'd say it. So it broadens your set of toolkit that you have as an engineer. So yeah.
So what when you go into engineering teams, because this is part of what you do as well, is there any kind of how do I put this? Any kind of resistance to wanting this kind of trainings, and how do you overcome this?
Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting it, because most of the workshops that I put, uh, we ask them, so what brings you to this workshop, right? And this is an anonymous poll. So most people are saying, oh, my boss sent me here. My this thing came here. Some people are kind enough and they say, oh, I want to know more about design thinking, because the workshop name is Design Thinking for Engineers. But we have to understand that most people may not know what this is, or they're already using parts of design thinking, but maybe there's some place where they can do it better. So making them realize that what design thinking really is and how it can leverage what you're doing in certain situations. And maybe as an engineer, when you approach certain situations with an engineering mindset, it may be not the best way to do things for that particular situation. Because when you're exploring, suppose a user need, if you approach it with an engineering mindset, sometimes we jump to solutions, because as engineers we are trained to come up with solutions, right? That's the training that we have, to come up with solutions. But sometimes when you're exploring the user need, you don't want to ask the user about solutions at that point. You want to understand the need. You want to hold back to that thing that's saying, oh, this would be a great solution, or this would be a great solution, and then throw it at the user and ask them about that. No, you want to understand that need that is there. So understanding when to use what can be really powerful.
I think it's like, if we have a complete the sentence, it would be find solutions, build solutions, and the other part would be like that people or your audience would use. I think this is the kind of
exactly
part.
That's a very beautiful way of putting it, because sometimes what happens as engineers, we're great at coming up with awesome solutions, right? So we build a great solution and then we're searching for the need. So a great solution in search for a need. That's what happens. So
yeah, again, I mean, here we're generalizing. It's obviously not all engineers. It's based on the exposure, the industry, how curious one is, how open one is to work with the others. It's based on company culture. So many things come into play, and you don't only facilitate workshops and trainings to engineers, but a wide array of audiences. So what are some of the, let's say, common patterns, maybe even challenges, but also things that happen in a recurring way throughout your workshops and trainings? You can give a story if you want.
Okay, for sure. So I think leading with judgment is something that I find, rather than, so we say, as when you are exploring stuff, right, you should be leading with curiosity rather than judgment. And we talk a lot about the beginner's mindset, right? When you're in solutions, and what happens is most people who are at that stage where they are solving a solution, they are okay, you went off a bit. I was curious what happened. Oh, your voice is gone.
That's made on purpose.
Okay, you're back.
I was just highlighting you on the screen, whoever's live. I was just putting just Shamir on screen. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere.
No problem. Okay, great. So we were doing this leading with curiosity. And most people sometimes have that, that beginner's mindset that is there. And so if you tell someone what to embrace the beginner's mindset, it can be really hard, which is why I use something called think like an alien, right? So what it is basically, if a human were to see an object, then they would have based on their judgment, because they've already used it before, they know what it is, right? You can tell what the object would be used based on your experience. But if you're an alien, you're seeing it for the first time, you start asking questions. So you don't lead with judgment based on your experience, but you lead with curiosity. And why is that really helpful is because most people who are solving problems have experience in that field for many years. And sometimes letting go of our judgment that is there can be really powerful when we're exploring things. So, thinking like an alien is something that I say, tell them, rather than thinking like a child. Because I found when I tell people, business people think like a child, they just look back at me and they're like, what are we doing, So thinking like an alien works well. So that's a common thing that I use. And I feel thinking like an alien helps in that scenario. Yeah, so that's a fun story.
Cool. That's a nice one actually. And letting go is a big one as well. It's very difficult to get people
Very,
to
yeah.
to let go of their kind of subconscious mind in a certain way. Also, actually, on that note, how was it for you to do you, well, first of all, do you trust your gut, your intuition, and coming from an engineering background to moving towards design thinking as well and facilitating the process to others? How was it for you, and how was it to communicate this to others?
Yeah, it is a real struggle. So let me tell you that even I am still figuring this out, because I feel like whenever I see things, I do jump to solutions. Like that is my mindset. And I have to remind myself, there's the one design thinking part of my brain that's screaming back at me and saying, wait, hold on, put on the brakes, park this solution. Like that's why you say the parking lot of ideas, right? Write it down on a stick and keep it away, so that it clears off the mind. So even I'm trying to figure out what are the best ways to do this. But it is a constant struggle. And that's why I tell myself that when I'm trying to solve something, I try to spend most of my time intentionally on understanding the problem, because I know I have the confidence that I can come up with solutions. Like I have the knack of coming up with solutions, but I need to spend more time discovering what the real problem is. So I intentionally force myself to spend more time in that spot. So it's not about really whether to choose engineering mindset or design thinking mindset. It's about knowing when to apply what and being aware of the differences and what situation you're in, and then choosing it. So it's not really about replacing either. So I know we said the name is from engineering thinking to design thinking, but it's more about when can we use what, and it's not about throwing away one over the other.
For sure, and I guess they all meet up.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, the podcast that was released last week, we were talking about becoming product manager with Anna Bigornia, and it's not just about it's a series of experiences that lead you to becoming, just a product manager. In her case, like advertising, banking,
Mhm.
fintech, banking, like traditional one,
Mhm.
health tech, and so on. And all this leads to one route, because at the end of the day, I think each one will design a different process and so on. Each
Mhm.
solution will be different. But going back to what you're saying, asking the right questions and understanding this is key, because you can spend so much time designing 1,000 solutions. But
Mhm.
again, they should be
Yeah.
meaningful, make sense,
Mhm.
make an
Yeah.
impact. So um, you said at the beginning that you enjoy facilitating, explaining things. You have the knack of explaining things in a very simple way. Um, how did you discover this?
So I did not know this was quote quote my superpower. I was told this by people.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of discovering about ourselves comes from exploring what's out there, putting yourself out there, exploring things, and taking feedback from people. So when I've been taking feedback from people, they said you're really great at this. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But then when 2, 3 people start saying the same thing, you start thinking like, okay, so maybe this is my unique USP, right? My unique selling point. Like this is something that I can do that I didn't realize was quote quote, superpower. So this is how I discovered I was good at it, and then I also realized this is something I enjoy. So, when you have discovered something that you enjoy and you're good at, it's a great way to work in that field. So, yeah.
So are you working more in facilitation of projects or more in trainings at the moment?
Uh, right now, it's training for, for individuals and organizations. So,
Oh,
designing
individuals
cohort
as well.
courses, individuals, yes. So, a group of individuals or even just cohort courses that are there.
Okay. Um, so let's jump into this a little bit. I know you said at the very beginning as well you like experiential learning. Uh, you integrate play into that as well. Um, let's think about a basic kind of training you have, and you have, let's say, people are really into it and they want to be there for a reason. Some who are wondering, okay, why they're here, and some's like, okay, I have to be here. How would you facilitate this conversation for
Yeah.
collaboration and co-creation and so on?
So one thing when we are in this online world is that we all are, yes, we're screens on a thing, but we're also in our own spaces. So I think the first thing initially when starting anything, even a small event or a workshop, is just getting people on the same page and co-creating that culture. So what I mean by that is what we call in facilitating world creating that contract, right? The contract between who is participating and the person who is doing that. So what you're going to say is that we come up with rules that we want. So if, everyone has already attended online events, so they know what bores them about it. They know what excites them, and they know what they want more of based on the experience. So I straight out ask, what from experiences that you had in either a full day workshop or half day or even just online meetings, what would you like more of? What would you like less of? And understanding where everyone's coming from, we then come to agreements like say, we will be interactive. So hashtag interact with each other or hashtag create those team agreements, as we call them, that this is how we're going to work with each other. So then we had some people say, you know what, I cannot listen to a lot of theory. I want some real world examples. So then it's hashtag keep it real. So we remind ourselves throughout, because I'm asking people to spend 8 hours a day staring at my face, explaining things for 3 days. So to
Wow.
get them in, to get them in that space, to make sure that they're interactive, you really have to co-create that space. You cannot lead with what you think is best. You have to manage it. So creating those team agreements just at the start is one thing. At the end of the day, right, end of the first day, I ask them, so these were the team agreements that we did. Do you feel there's anything else we need to add to this? At that point, some people are like, okay, yes, maybe we need to add this, maybe we need to remove something. And at the start of the next day as well, we refresh them. So these are team agreements that is not a static thing. It is a live document that we are agreeing to working together. We're saying that, some things are working for us, not working for us. And one thing that came up was also people are not comfortable being on video for 8 hours. And that makes sense, right? it makes sense.
Yeah, for
So then
sure.
this, yeah. So some of the agreements that were there was even around, we cannot do video, but we would love to participate by audio. So some of the activities I said, I told them straight, like this activity, this is how it works. It works great on video, but what can we do to make sure that we still have this activity because it's great for the next learning that we have. It is very relevant to it. So that's why I don't want to change the activity, but maybe we can come to an agreement on how to do this activity. Straight away, someone says instead of so the activity was basically that we say, hey, what are you doing? So I'd say, hey Maria, what are you doing? And you say, suppose swimming. So then I'll be like, I'm swimming, right? And then I'll say, hey, what are you doing? And you say the same thing, and then you have to act it out. So this was basically to get them in the mindset of putting yourself in the shoes of someone else, understanding a verb, and getting that's the mindset you wanted to create. But how do you do that if it's not video? That was a real challenge. So then they said, let's do it on video. Let's do it with noises. And this came from them. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of this. And because we created that agreement, right, they were working with me to make sure that this event works together. So it's not me leading as a facilitator, it's us in that space working together to bring value to both of us. Value to my time, but also value to what they're learning and we can come up with. So those team agreements, I feel, are very, very important, especially when you're asking people for so much of their time, and that, yeah.
That's very challenging. Actually, I like what you said, and for sure, eight hours a day behind a screen. I mean, that's
Yeah.
asking for a lot.
Yeah.
How is it working? Like what? I mean, I guess it's working, right? From your, but um, is there something you would change? Would you, or you're enjoying this kind of 8 hour straight, 3 days, bam, done, a bit like you would do in real life? So if it's like an
Mhm.
in-person workshop,
Mhm.
that would be amazing, I
Mhm.
guess. And this one-on-one personal contact,
Mhm. Mhm.
conversations that would occur,
Mhm.
great memories and so on. But online, how are you achieving this?
Yeah. So 8 hours is a lot, and I personally would prefer. And there's only so much that you can take away when it's 8 hours, right? To absorb at that point. If I had a magic wand, I would say, let's do 3 hours now. Let's go back another week. So we learn one thing and we apply it during the week, and maybe the next time we meet is going to be 3 for 4 hours. We'll reflect on what we learned. So you have time for people to digest the content, take it in, and then create the challenge. So this is if I had a magic wand, but the challenge really is now on an organization, right? Think from their point of view, right? Design thing, use empathy, think about them. They're going to ask their people to block out that time for that many days in a month. So they prefer to just say, we send people for 3 days and finish it off, as opposed to that. So it's a constant challenge of how do we communicate to them that it is actually better for your organization if you do it for a longer period of time, as opposed to just just a 3 day shot that's there. But I feel like I'm still navigating on how to explore that, how to get that communication out there, and why is it better to have a longer engagement and where there's a long reflection time, because that can really, because these are methods that you need to become refined in your mind when you practice them. So you need those times to practice. There's only so much practice time that you can put in a workshop, right? So you need those reflections, because then when you reflect on it, you come up with challenges. You come up with challenges that you're going to face, and then you can address those challenges at the next point. So again, if I had magic wand, I would like to spread it out in those things as opposed to just one shot. But if you have tips on how to convince organizations about that, I would love to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually what I think. This is one of the discussions we had yesterday in like the
yeah,
whole Croatian school
yeah,
group.
yeah.
I'll be putting the link in the comments anyway. There are lots of events, so um, it's a tough one. I'm gonna share a story with you. Just before the pandemic, I had a chat with a potential client, and they wanted to do something over 3 months,
Mm-hmm,
going in like once a week or something,
mm-hmm,
once or twice a week. I can't remember. Um, and so, and what I tried to do actually is I said, why don't we do it over a shorter period of time?
mm-hmm,
Because it was not a training, it was more of a project
mm-hmm,
they wanted to work on. But also, there were, as I started asking questions, um, trying to figure out, okay, where is this going to happen? Are we going to have the same room? Is it the same people? And all of that. All of this was not really clear. It
mm-hmm,
was not going to be the same room because this room would be used by other people. And one thing that I find very important, and I think it's because of my kind of also background in design, where, at uni, whatever, you would have your
mm-hmm,
own room, let's say, and your
mm-hmm.
stuff on the wall, and no one would touch
Yeah.
them. Or working in a company where, you have the chance maybe to keep stuff there for,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
people to come. And then here it would have been, imagine like you have these participants coming in
Mm-hmm,
1 week, then another week, then another week, and each time you would feel that you're starting from scratch because there is no
mm-hmm,
kind of repère. I don't know how to say that in French.
uh-huh. Connection.
There's yeah, there's no connection with
Mm-hmm,
the room itself,
mm-hmm,
with what's happening, and you would have to remind again everyone. And sometimes, or often, let's say, visual uh,
mm-hmm,
elements can be very helpful to remember moments, to remember, specific words, to remember an aha moment, whatever that may be. And that's why I
mm-hmm,
was like, I think it's better to do it in a different way, especially that people will not be working on this the rest of the time, like at all. They would be very
mm-hmm,
busy with other things. So I
mm-hmm,
think in this case, it really depends.
mm-hmm,
But that was in person, though, this conversation.
mm-hmm,
It didn't happen at the end because I was a bit also picky in the sense that if I want to do something, I want to do it the way I believe it works. Otherwise,
mm-hmm.
not getting involved.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true. That creation of space is very important, whether it's online or in person, and it really empowers a organization, because when you feel that this is an environment that you can be free, this is an environment that makes sense to connect with what you're doing, it really empowers people to get around and play, and that's in that scenario. So yeah.
Yeah, and also one thing to keep in mind is that when something is so important or is portrayed as being a very important project, let's say that's going to happen, like
Hmm.
release of a new product or whatever,
Hmm.
that's going to, make a big difference in the company, but also for people's lives and stuff like that. And then you realize that this is going to be a project where, oh, by the way, we have to work on this too. It's not going to happen because this is a collective effort.
Hmm.
If you have a facilitator, but the rest is not really involved, like everyone who's there should really be
Hmm.
involved, it's
Hmm.
not going to happen. This is why a shorter format would have worked, in my opinion, better.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it depends. It's awesome when you are able to communicate all this knowledge and also learn. I mean, we also learn a lot when we facilitate,
Hmm.
from others and so
Yeah.
on, where people will explore. Like the next time, you would have so many learnings coming back, putting that into the process, like injecting it in and then moving forward.
Hmm.
That would be
Yeah.
very good. That's your ideal kind of. In that, I
Yeah.
think it's too
Very good.
ideal. I think we're dreaming here a little bit. It depends.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of education to be done, I think, from our end too, in that sense, for
Hmm.
organizations. So yeah, if you come up with something else, maybe we can do another episode on that one. Uh,
Let's go for that. Yeah.
but you mentioned Play Two a few times, so before and now. I think
Hmm.
this is also key because there are lots of, and this is something I think you do and I do and many others do as well, is injecting those moments of play um,
Hmm.
throughout the process to start
Hmm.
connecting links and creating some sort of understanding of why are we doing this. It's the same concept
Yeah.
rather than just explaining things through words. What are
Yeah.
some amazing moments and experiences you can share here?
Sure. So I love bringing play. So I like my tagline as, playful with purpose. Because if you're just playful in a business organization, they're like, what is this person? They're wasting our time, right? But if you can prove that you have a purpose behind the play, it's really important. And play is really powerful because people when they're playing, they get automatically into that mindset of exploring things, right? Think when was the last time you tried a new activity? You're exploring, you're playing, you're having fun. And while you're doing that activity, you get better at it. So you don't know that you're actually getting better at it, but you're enjoying that activity. And after you finish playing, you can reflect on it and you're like, oh, yes, I learned this stuff while doing it. So that playful is really, bringing play into it is really good. One example that I love to share because it's really fun when I think about it is we had this one course where we had people. Um, so we were teaching about designing a business. That's what it was all about. And one of the lessons for that particular class was all about business models, right? So how do you create different kinds of revenue models? And what we did was we had this. There are so many types of business models nowadays. Like even Strategizer comes up. I think the website has around 45 to 50 business models.
Yeah.
I was like, in this point, how do you have people go through that? And I wanted them to get a flavor of the business models just enough so that later they can explore more. So what we just designed, right? I came up with this thing called speed dating with business models. So what they did was they had a sample business, of a fake business, that was there, and they had to go through those business models like they were cards, like they were dating cards of a person. So it tells you about the business, it tells you about what it is, it tells you an example, a very similar example, like of Amazon or something like that, so you can relate to it, and then it asks you prompt questions, where the prompt questions is such that you can apply it, those business models, and then you try to see how many of those can you apply to that business, because a business model, you can, for different customers you can have different business models, for different partners you can have different business models. So understanding that maybe a business model that is not even in your industry can be something you can apply, so you can take inspiration from that. So just exposing people to that in a very quick way made it like speed dating. So speed dating with business models, so that's a fun, yeah,
How was
experience
it?
of play.
How was it for the participants?
Oh, at first there was friction. So at the
Okay.
very first time I tried this, there was a lot of friction. They're like, why are we doing this? So I had to explain, okay, so this is what we're coming for. So even when you're playing, right, you have to really clear. So how I imagine it is when you're playing, think of that basketball court, right? I say basketball because I was playing basketball when I was a kid. But in the basketball court, you have the goal, you have the basket that's there. So that's what you want to achieve. You have the ball that people are playing with, right? So in this case, you're playing it with a business model, but you also have the fence courts. Right, you have the rules, you have the lines on the ground that tell you, in this particular area, this is the rule that you have to follow. So you know that when you're playing with the business model, you do not have to worry about the execution of the model, because when we are playing, I'm telling you that I just want you to explore the business model. I don't want you to come up with financials when I send you into the Zoom room, right? I don't want you to think of how you're going to actually implement this. I want you to just think of, if you implemented, what would it look like? Because that's what the activity is all about. So telling people what they're going to do when they're playing, and also what they should not be doing. So even when you have the football, coming back to the basketball court, you have fences, right? You know that you should not be playing basketball outside those fences. You should be playing it inside. So creating those play moments where you have the goal, which is the basket ring, you have the ball that people are playing with, you have this, and you have a referee. So referee sometimes can be the facilitator who says, maybe we should be moving a little fast. Maybe we have only this much time. So the facilitator comes in and out. So this is the analogy I like to use to explain play and designing play moments, especially as a facilitator, because you have to consider all these aspects that are there, so that people can enjoy the moment and understand why they're playing, and then go about it in that.
Yes. So you have rules, you have constraints, and you have moments of uncertainty and unpredictable moments where they
Yeah.
have to manage their way in, and
Yeah.
that's great actually for
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
how the team dynamics would be also there,
Mhm.
and and
Yeah.
how people would discover themselves. I get you. I
And
guess you reflect on that too. Yeah. What do you want to say?
and just that the one person who was there, like who had his strongest opinion. So we had to spend like 5 minutes explaining what it was. And that was a great learning for me. When he came out of the breakout room, what he said was, "I love this. When can we do this again?" And so we have like weekly calls, like 3 calls a week that do the same thing, but different people teach it. So he attended the other 3 as well, just to get more into it. And then later contact me. He's like, "How can I help you build this more?" So it was really, people love to play, especially and love to learn. So how do you leverage that as a facilitator, and make sure that they play on the right things? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I just want to share that.
No, that's cool, and this makes a difference because you remove this kind of very serious aspect where people would expect much more. You know the marshmallow challenge, right?
Mhm.
Um, and
I
the marshmallow
just
challenge.
clarify it for me.
The
Clarify it
marshmallow
for
is,
me.
is where you have the actually spaghetti and marshmallows, and
Mhm.
you have to
Yeah,
build the highest kind of
something
tower
from
of
it. Yeah, tower. Yeah, okay.
yeah
Just want to clarify that. Yeah,
marshmallows.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the guy who actually invented it, I
Mhm.
think it was like Autodesk or something who was to work
Oh,
there or
okay.
something like that.
Nice.
I can't remember. I mean, that's amazing because I've also done it with people from really old age or all ages, like teenagers
Mhm.
and professionals with 20 years of experience or less as well. So, and what I noticed, but also what I've seen from the video of the guy who
Uh-huh.
invented it, he said this. He said
Uh-huh.
kids do this much better because they don't have any expectations, and the
Yes.
reason being is how you do this. So how you
Mhm.
present this as well. It's all about storytelling. Going back to that, so you would
Mhm.
say whoever builds the highest tower will have this amount of money. You will win this, your team will win that, or you will get
Uh-huh.
a trip or whatever that may be.
Uh-huh.
Whereas if you kind of have no expectations and you just go ahead and do it, you won't
Mhm.
focus on I want to win or I want to get that and I want to be seen or I want to whatever. You will focus
Mhm.
on just making this happen. So I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say
Yeah.
what's how you build it
Uh-huh.
because there is a not trick but a guideline on how to do it, like how to start.
Mhm.
People can go ahead and
Uh-huh.
try it in their teams. I think this is brilliant, but this
Mhm.
is in person. I've never done this
Mhm.
online because you need a
Okay.
team to build this, so they should all
Yeah.
be in the same room actually. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, lots of things changed, I guess, since um, COVID and so on. How was it for you in terms of your facilitation, or was it always online?
Yeah, so I believe so. The thing is, we did, I tell many of my friends, I was doing online before it became, this thing. And one of the jokes was that before I used to tell people I'm going to a Zoom meeting, they're like, what is Zoom? And I had to explain, it's Skype, but not really. But now everyone knows what Zoom is. So I had the advantage of being able to work asynchronously, so working with
Sorry,
people from all over the world.
I missed you.
Yeah.
Can
Oh,
you
okay.
repeat? What's Zoom?
Yeah.
It's
It
Skype.
was. Oh, yeah. So I had to explain to people what was Zoom back at that point. Because I say I'm going into a Zoom meeting. They're like, "What is Zoom?" So I said, it's like Skype, but not really. There are a lot more people that you can talk to at that point. But after the pandemic, everyone's on Zoom and they're using it and they're aware of this platform. But also working asynchronously was something that we had always been doing. So as part of my work with IDEO U, we have a lot of people working from different parts of the world, so all over the world, and we've already been like using ways to work asynchronously to create that team engagement, to create those safe psychological safety in teams so that we work together. So I felt I was more prepared for it when it happened because we had already been doing it for a while. We'd figured out ways that work for us. So yeah, so, so it was interesting to navigate it and also share experiences with people when they were getting into it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, my first thing was getting a microphone, I think. That was for me. I'm gonna get ready for that. But no, it was
Same here. Yeah.
it's more because I wanted to create a course and start a podcast, like basically stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
but I'm enjoying the online aspect, to be honest.
Mhm.
Because there's one thing. Actually, I made the decision for 2022, at least like
Mhm.
the first 8 months is only doing things online.
Okay.
Um, the reason being, well, at least here in Italy, you still have to wear masks and stuff when you're indoors. And
Mhm.
I didn't like this. I've done it since 2020. So September 2020 was my first
Mhm.
like in person
Mhm.
again, kind of event. And it was tough. It was
Mhm.
tough because everyone was scared.
Mhm.
You really had guidelines and you couldn't move. Like I
Mhm.
had to compromise on many things and find a solution, staying even longer to put like scotch tape between like one person and another who are gonna stand in
Oh.
those positions, like things like that. So,
Mhm.
and I thought
Mhm.
that's like the way it's gonna be, and I freaked out. It worked well at the end, but it was difficult because also doing sessions where people are there in person, but some prefer to stay home or couldn't make it.
Mhm.
When it's not equipped, it's very difficult. Um,
Mhm.
Also, so my decision was to be completely online because for me it's very important to see people's faces and body language and
Yeah.
reaction because I
Yeah.
improvise a lot.
Okay.
Actually, I think I improvise more than what I do, but it turns out okay. Um, and with masks is tough because the eyes
Mhm.
alone are not
It's
gonna
tough
do.
to read. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very true.
that's
Very
why I'm
true.
preferring behind the screen,
Yeah.
even though we don't have videos all the time. But
Mhm.
at least you know what to expect, and you just adjust based on that.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
and sometimes you just create that space where people can still contribute even if their videos are off. So sometimes coming back to those team agreements. So one of the team agreements was that if you like something that I was saying, if you find it funny, react with the Zoom react button.
Yeah,
So when people do that, even if you have a bunch of everyone's videos are off, you see the reactions, right? So you as a facilitator know that people are engaged, people are listening to you. So like, how do you create those things? So it's been really interesting to explore this online space and how it's very different because turning videos in one part of the world might be just the way of doing it, but for another part of the world it might be very different because maybe you don't have that shared, you're living in a shared space as opposed to having your own room where you can do that. So how do you create those spaces? So that's been very interesting to explore when the pandemic hit as well. How do we do this as facilitators?
yeah, and I think we explore kind of every day
Mhm.
how things. There are new
Yeah.
tools as well, but the tools alone are not gonna make the
Mhm.
the difference.
Yeah.
So I was just curious. You said you used to play basketball. Do you play
Yeah.
cricket also?
I'm not that good at it. I'm not that good at it. I have a lot of good friends who are great at basketball. I just play it for fun, so I play it to enjoy. But yeah, I would say that I did land a few 3 pointers in my day back in school, but not many. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Um, is there basketball is my has always been my favorite sport anyway.
Ah,
I
well,
used
that's nice.
Yeah, I used to go
Okay.
around like 15, 14, whatever, even older, I
Mhm.
would go and spend my time just shooting three pointers. At some
Mhm.
point, I was good.
Oh,
Now I don't think the ball reaches the basket. I'm
well, we can definitely try now. So that's one more thing we need to do when we
yeah,
meet up.
yeah. Or on Zoom. Yeah.
Figure it out how to do that.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything you would like to talk about? I just want to add one thing here. You said you worked with or you work with actually
Mhm.
IDEO U
Mhm.
and you work with other organizations as well. But just to
Mhm.
clarify, all opinions are your own.
Mhm.
Disclaimer here on Gut Talks. Is there anything else you would like to? I'm just trying to keep this within the hour. That's all. So,
Mhm.
um, anything else you would like to discuss?
I let me see what interests me. I guess it's quite interesting. So one thing that I think we've all discovered in this pandemic is that the ease in which we can explore places, because a lot of people are going online. So no matter me sitting in Mumbai, India, can talk to you sitting in Milan, right, Italy. So just exploring what's out there, creating that community that is outside what we traditionally used to call a community, right? Something that you could meet in person can be really powerful because it helps you get different perspectives of things. And I feel like we've all had these silos in the world where we were doing things on our own. We were figuring out, we were, yes, meeting when we met at conferences, we had to travel. But now it's much more easier to meet people online and create these communities with people who might be doing the same work as you are, but in a very different context, in a different part of the world, and in a different way. So using the same tools in a very different way. So there's a lot more learning opportunities. So I've definitely benefited a lot from being able to learn from others, learn with others, try, experiment with others. So I would just encourage everyone to go ahead and do that, and explore those communities of something that you want to learn or you want to try or you want to experiment, and just have fun while doing it.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally,
yeah.
for sure. And actually, um, these podcasts are a bit global. I've had people from literally everywhere, and I also had the chance to do with just workshops and sessions and projects. So, with people from everywhere. Again, literally.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and there is one thing I noticed, and I'm gonna bring it up here because you're in Mumbai, right? And
Mhm.
obviously, and I met a lot of Indians who have like
Mhm.
engineering backgrounds, for example, or design backgrounds. It depends. Who jumped into UX or UI.
Mhm.
Some recently, some have been doing that for a few years. And one thing they mentioned is that um, in India things are like come in like after or another thing they were saying, like when it comes to designers in large companies, corporations, and things like that, is
Mhm.
still a little bit behind, or there's this kind of friction with
Mhm.
the other stakeholders and so on in the company. And
Yeah.
and for me, it was like this is like everywhere. Like it's like I told them like my experience at least and so on, because I also started in consulting with a um in a big four, and when the design team was very very recent, like very very
Mhm.
small as
Mhm.
well. It is interesting, it's different dynamics, there's lots of education to be done, there's lots of communication to be
Mhm.
out there. It's I think it's great times, and it's good that we're not all aligned in that sense, because we don't all think in the same way. Maybe aligned is not the right word, we all have different mindsets, but then finding a way
Mhm.
to want to work together, this is key.
Mhm.
If we want to do that, then we learn and listen and
Mhm.
understand each other, because this is not only in one place, this is everywhere, and it also depends on the pressure and the business goals and KPIs and all of. So there are many
Mhm.
things that come into play, and it's not just like about the well-being of a person or an individual or a team in an organization.
Mhm.
And I want to bring this up with you to see how do you think about that. And another thing, like India is huge, we know, but I mean Bangalore, there are so many invitations coming from there. I mean Bangalore is not India, India is
Mhm.
bigger, but
Mhm.
um, many things come from there. But for me, one key aspect, and I hope some of the people I met listen to that, because I think I want your opinion on this. But my view is, it's everywhere. It's not only India. It's not only consulting in India, or so on. It's the same patterns. This is why we can speak the same language, have conversations, and jump
Mhm.
into conversations like that where we can all learn and support each other.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting when you mentioned that. Um, there is friction. So in organizations, when you're bringing this new mindset, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that helps when you hear that this sort of thing that you're trying to bring to is being used by another company in X part of the world, right? Or you hear it from Y part of the world, then you're like, maybe that friction starts to reduce, sort of. So having these conversations about what's happening in other parts of the world, these case studies of it being applied and success stories coming out of it, can really change that movement, can really stop that, reduce that friction, and it starts snowballing into where, instead of you reaching out to people and saying, do you need this, right? A push towards the market, you start getting pulled from the market. So you start getting people reaching out to you and say, hey, you know what? We want to try this design thinking in our workshop. We want to bring this to this. And I've been starting to see that as well. Like a lot of people reaching out for this thing, as opposed to, pushing that pull from the market as well. So I think it's the evolution and it's the speed at which things are happening, but it's also the realization that it's happening in other parts of the world. So people are being exposed to it. People are seeing its results as well. So that can be a great way to reduce that friction, because those when you have examples of it, they really become those beacons, right? They become those beacons for the change that you want to see, and so they can be really powerful in that sense. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Um, that's yeah. I just wanted your view on that one, actually. So at least we're kind of echoing each other. But I
Mhm.
like the fact, like the case studies. Yeah, because you do read and people would read, but it's like sometimes you just need read the story that is ideal, but maybe what's missing is the whole journey to get there.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
key.
yeah. People often forget the journey. They
Yeah.
just see the destination and they're like, okay, we want to get there. We were like, wait, hold on. It is a journey. You will go through these things. It does take time, and you need to get started now. You can't just like, copy paste and it's done. You're at that destination. So yeah, explaining that, especially as a facilitator, when you expect people, you say you want to bring design thinking to the workshop, right? 3 days with me is not going to bring design thinking to your workshop.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's not,
Yeah.
right? I can inspire people about it. I can give them some challenges that they will possibly face, but they're going to have to apply it, and we will equip as much as we can in those 3 days to do it. But it's just about starting that journey. It's about helping so depending on the context, it can be from helping people realize that this thing exists so that they can explore more, giving them enough appetite for themselves to explore more and go out there, because a lot of there's the information is available, just as long as you know what you want to search for. So maybe just telling them about these things, giving them access to those tools. For another context, it may be they're already using it and now they want to enhance it, right? They want to get better at a certain specific part of it. So then you start designing. So that would be the workshop for that. So it really depends what kind of journey they want to, and realizing that it is a journey. It is something that you need to practice and you need to do and reflect on to get better at, and to have those environments for that. So yeah,
Yeah, it's not something acquired you do once and you believe that's it, I've got it. It's continuous
yeah,
improvement. uh
for sure.
and that's exciting. So
Yeah.
yeah. No, thank you for that. I think if someone wants to reach out, I'll be putting all the links, but where can we find you?
Sure. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, where can we find you? On LinkedIn primarily?
Oh yeah. LinkedIn is the best place, I feel, because it's got everything. But I'll also share with you my link tree. So it's a link to all of my other socials, just
Okay.
LinkedIn and some other work as well. So I'll share that with you after this. You can put that in the post for sure. Yeah,
Cool. Thank you so much, Shamir.
no problem. It's been fun. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you. And whoever, by the way, was online, I can see we don't have stuff in the chat, but thank you so much for joining. Feel free to comment or reach out at any point in time, and follow Gut Talks just to on Spotify or Amazon Music or Apple Podcasts or Google
Google. Mm.
Podcasts, or YouTube, because we're
Yeah.
posting the audio version of this, but this one will still be available Anyway, thank you so much.
Mhm.